Michael, and I'm the manager of the health services team at Jazz Aviation, and my role is to work with a team of case management professionals and nurses to support the health and well-being of 4,500 employees across Canada. And those 4,500 employees are responsible for getting big chunks of metal into the air and transporting thousands of people from one place to another. So Jazz is based in Halifax. Our headquarters is there. And what I want to do is just share with you a little bit of what we do. So you'll see here, 10 million people every year we move. So we're in the business of moving people, and we're basically a provider of regional airline services for Air Canada. So their primary customer is Air Canada, and what we do is we just move people from the smaller bases to the larger bases, and then Air Canada moves them from the larger bases to other large bases. And so we move a lot of people. We have a lot of flights. We have 750 flights a day, and it takes a lot of cooperation and effort to make that happen. So we have over 100 aircraft, about 119 now, and it's growing. It's getting bigger and bigger. And that is the reason why we're kind of looking at expanding how we do business and expanding our creativity in terms of recruitment efforts and trying to find new people and new talent to come into Jazz Aviation. So we've been doing a lot of work in various areas. So we have an extensive disability management program, an accommodation, STD, LTD. We do the WCB and CSST work. The work that we do, people get hurt, and what we try to do is minimize the impact of the injuries. Luckily, Jazz has been acknowledged as one of the safest employers in Canada recently with the Canadian Safety Reporter. We're very proud of that. We work really hard at that. We've also done some great work with diversity with respect to, we've received multiple awards over the years for our efforts to be an inclusive environment and a respectful environment for other people, for everybody to come in and be themselves and be available to do some really neat work. My department, as I said, we have nurses, case managers, and coordinators, and we have an extensive process around coming into the operation because the nature of the work is very safety sensitive. It's very critical that people have the ability to do the work and to do the work safely without distraction, without concern. So my team does pre-placement medical evaluations, and that had been primarily a very rigid structure, very medical legal, not very accommodating, not very open. And when I joined the team about 4 years ago, we started shifting how we looked at that, and we started worrying not so much about liability and risk, and we started expanding our focus to, well, what can you do? What's your function? So yes, you have this issue, but what does that actually mean on the job? And so we started, having those conversations with employees and candidates. And as a result, we've done some really neat things. One of the things that I'm particularly proud of is we've hired a young lady by the name of Madison. Madison is a deaf individual who is a graduate of the Atlantic Province's Special Education Authority, and she has a really interesting story in that she wanted to be an aircraft maintenance engineer unconventionally, because if you know anything about aircraft maintenance, you know that it's male dominated, and she decided she wanted to be a maintenance engineer because her grandfather had built a small craft in the 50s, and she wanted to understand how he did that, so she decided to study it. And she ended up going to Nova Scotia Community College, 2-year program. They warned her that she would probably not get a job because she was deaf. And she was kind of stubborn. She said, no, I'm going to give it a shot anyways. And what ended up happening was she was at a recruitment fair being hosted by my company, and she was known. One of the instructors approached our recruitment team and said, Madison is a really talented maintenance engineer. You should really give her a chance. She had actually participated in a competition in France about 2 years ago, and she placed silver medal internationally for her profession. So when we went through the pre-placement medical process, she was actually disqualified as being unfit for duty because of the degree of hearing impairment that she had. But what we did, because I knew that didn't need to be the way, what we did was we went and had a conversation with the occupational medicine physician that we hired to help us ascertain whether or not somebody would be a good match. And we had a couple of conversations, and we did sort of a hearing test without the hearing aid, hearing test with the hearing aid, and then we did some functional evaluation to see could she actually do the job safely, and she could. So we ended up hiring her. She's been with the company now for almost 2 years, and she is fantastic. And one of the cool things is the crews that she works with tell us that she's actually made the place safer for them, because there used to be a process where when the aircraft is in the hangar, they would elevate it on a hydraulic, and they would call out hydraulic to everybody. And everybody around the aircraft, amidst the noisy engine room and all the machines and all that making noise, they would be expected to hear this verbal alert. And sometimes they would hear it, sometimes they wouldn't. When Madison joined the team, they stopped doing that, and they started doing an eye contact and shoulder tap. So they tap, say, hydraulics, and everybody would go around the room saying, okay, the plane's about to go up, get out of the way. And everybody feels a lot safer just from that. So it's just a small little thing that she actually optimized Jazz's commitment to safety. Because Madison is a graduate of the Atlantic Special Education Authority, and so am I, we decided to partner up, and we invited a bunch of students in grade 9, grade 10 from around Atlantic Canada who visit Halifax on a periodic basis to learn about career options and so on. We decided to invite them to Jazz Aviation to see the hangar, to see the systems operation control, to see what's possible in the aviation world. A lot of these kids would never have thought that they could join aviation because they assume that it's just pilots and flight attendants. If they can't hear on the headset, they might not be able to do the job. But we were able to bring them in, and some of the kids are excited about possibly being mechanics. Some of them are excited about using the dispatch systems and all of that, so that was kind of interesting. We've had some really great successes over the years. We've successfully supported maintenance engineers such as Madison. We've also supported a young pilot out of Calgary who has a learning disability, and in the face of his learning disability, he still managed to become a successful pilot. And I don't know if you know much about being a pilot, but pilot is a pretty darn good paying job, so he's pretty excited to be able to do that. We have individuals who work in dispatch that have disabilities that are doing quite well. We achieve these things by just being flexible about the modified duties, being flexible about schedule, looking at assistive tools and devices and bringing in different ways of getting the job done. And a lot of education awareness. On one of the previous slides, we've embarked on a training campaign with Not Myself Today, and we're doing Safe Talk for suicide awareness, and we're really focusing in on mental health, mental well-being, and just awareness in general, and that goes a long way to helping people feel supported and able to contribute. And this is a joint effort between the union, the management, and employees. Everybody is fully engaged. A lot of our accommodations are negotiated in partnership with the union. So when we have somebody who has a unique need, we sit down with the union, sit down with the manager, and sit down with the individual and say, okay, how do we make this happen? And we just have a simple conversation about it, and everybody signs off on it. We put it on a piece of paper because unfortunately there's a lot of churn in terms of management moving from one position to another, so it's nice to have a little bit of a paper trail so that the person doesn't get asked unusual questions when a new leader comes on. And that's it. That's what we've been doing at Jazz. We're pretty proud of it, and it's a work in progress.